In 1932, Franklin Delano Roosevelt decided to run for the presidency of the United States. Hoping to instill confidence in the country, he would often use this touring car to ride around through the crowds and wave at them, and with his campaign theme, "Happy Days Are Here Again," hoping to let them know that better times were ahead. When he was successful in what evidently was a landslide in 1932, his programs quickly went into effect when he took office in March of 1933. They were referred to as the alphabet soup legislation, or the 3 R's: relief, recovery, and reform. The New Deal was actually broken down into 2 phases: immediate relief and long-term recovery. In his immediate relief, he created such institutions as the Civilian Conservation Corps, the CCC. This sent young men into the forest, living in barracks, getting their food as part of their job. They would send their salaries home to their families, who were often unemployed and could not find work. Other pieces of legislation, such as the AAA, the Agricultural Adjustment Act, gave immediate relief to farmers. By 1935, he was in the second of his R's, the recovery form, and this was more long-term or more lasting kinds of legislation.
Some of those pieces of legislation passed, such as the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and are still in effect today. Others that remain in effect are the Tennessee Valley Authority, Social Security, and the Securities Exchange Commission.
So these kinds of pieces of legislation, while initially made to instill confidence quickly in the public, have lasted since his presidency began. Secondly, as a Democrat, he believed that immediate relief was necessary. As part of the Democratic program of relief, FDR instituted something referred to in economics as pump priming. Pump priming is actually taking government money and creating jobs, leaving a deficit or a federal debt. This money would then be paid as salaries to workers for the jobs that were created by the federal government. Once they received a paycheck, the thought was they would spend it, and that would put money into the economy. Along with receiving a paycheck, they would also be taxed, and that tax money would help to repay the federal debt. Unlike an alternative program that had been used by President Hoover, which was referred to as the trickle-down program, only the wealthiest corporations in the United States would receive money.
President Hoover had Congress create the Reconstruction Finance Corporation. This would give government loans to business. In order to keep people working, this money would be used to pay salaries and to expand factory facilities. This then would mean people would be kept at work, production would continue, and more wages would be used to buy products, keeping somewhat the demand at a high level.
The thought here was that if you paid corporations, they would keep people at work, but they would be producing surpluses, and these surpluses would not be bought for some time. President Reagan in the 1980s decided to call this trickle-down theory supply-side economics. The idea was that you would continue to make as many products as possible, and you would simply stockpile them. When the economy eventually recovered, people would then be able to buy them at a somewhat reduced price. By people staying at work during this period of time, it avoided them going on welfare. This then would have added to the federal debt. The 2 programs, both put forward by Roosevelt and Hoover, remain to this day as controversial ways for the Democrats and the Republicans to deal with grave economic issues.